Alice, it is Thursday evening here in north of Boston, Massachusetts.
Yes.
Best Blueberry, Massachusetts. Tough day for you today. Tough day for Alice Shattuck today. We've just been working hard, and she's been working hard and getting stressed out. Decided to do all the things today, too. Went to Sally's singing lessons and went to Anson's karate, and then worked and all that other stuff. I, of course, Alice, studied hard for my show today. Yesterday, it was a show where I had zero to talk about for 4 hours. There were no topics. Was that yesterday? There was no topics?
That was yesterday, yes.
That was yesterday?
Mm-hmm. The day before that was the policeman story that you liked, and we had Anthony on. And then the next day you had no topics.
Anthony's gone now, officially. He's gone.
Wow. No. So who was there today?
It was Anthony. It was his last shift.
Oh.
So yesterday it was weird. It was been just weird. And today I had one really topic, and I figured I could encompass the world with it. Really led by, I think, did we play the audio last night? Did we play this last night?
Teachers need to be allowed
We played
to
this.
teach.
Oh, not this one, no.
I'm a parent, and I'm sorry to all you parents out there, but you do not get a say in your child's teacher's lesson plans. I spent thousands of dollars on a degree and my educator's license, and I would be gosh darned if parents tried to tell me how to write my lesson plans that I literally went to school to learn how to write. You know, if a parent wants to have that much say in their kid's education, then you know what? You probably need to homeschool them.
You played the psycho last night who didn't want uneducated white people going to restaurants.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That's where I thought you were going.
So, no, between that and the fact that that a local school has been oh yeah, you know what it is?
What is it?
It is the Southern Connecticut State University, SCSU, has run to the defense of the teachers in Southington. You know, the English teacher who handed out this thing that talked all about
the vocabulary,
cisgender allies, transgender, gender nonconforming, institutional structural racism, white privilege, yada yada. So now the SCSU, which is a huge feeder for teachers in Connecticut, said, among other things, attacks like this is because parents had a problem with it, attacks like this are exacerbating the teacher shortage in Connecticut. We want to send a clear signal of support, not just to educators in Southington, but also to educators across Connecticut. I love how they're educators now. Listen to this quote. And they all got together and wrote a letter. Our student educators are increasingly hesitant about going into K-12 education, particularly secondary education, given the perception that everything they say may be carefully monitored and policed by parent watchdog groups.
Oh, sorry. Do people not like you teaching their kids your crazy neo-religion?
Can you imagine that? They're watchdog groups. They're watching us, what we're doing. Freaking in a letter that they signed. I can't believe it. I'll tell you, if in my perfect world, I would fire everybody who signed this letter and say, you have disgraced SCSU and diminished faith in the education, the institution of higher education completely, or in basic education, and you're all disgraces. You signed with essentially our death knell. They also go into, but now remember, they're under attack for nothing. Okay, there's no introspection. In the letter, the SCSU faculty and administrators challenged the board to answer what is wrong with the vocabulary packet. What exactly is wrong with a worksheet that provides simple, straightforward characterizations of concepts such as marginalization and white privilege as a way to help students contextualize literature? The letter asks. Right.
Help them contextualize literature.
I would, if I ran SCSU, I would then hire them all back, and then I'd fire them again for that. What's wrong with us teaching woke stuff? Oh, okay. I see.
We're just teaching them straightforward definitions of concepts. How can you possibly have a problem? This is why people got so mad about this stuff, is because you're treated like an idiot. Can you exactly articulate what exactly is the problem here? Can you define critical race theory? Because that's not even taught here. It's only taught in law schools. We're just giving you some simple definitions. This isn't some, like, just to make you feel like you're dumb for noticing that there's a problem. This is not the way school was taught when we were kids. We all know that that's true. And we all know that it's true that these particular words are associated with a particular worldview,
Right.
and that the teachers are asking the kids to interpret everything that happens in the classroom through that worldview, right? And that it's not, I recall when you first talked about this story, there were a few people saying, like, even in the Facebook group where you posted asking about it locally, and there were a few parents saying, like, well, the teacher's allowing all sides. They're just giving the concepts of what they are. I'm willing to bet that if those same parents had a teacher in their school district who handed out a worksheet that, wasn't a world religions classes worksheet that asked about salvation, soteriology, millenarianism, like if it went through a bunch of like religious terms that have to do with like a specific religious faith and asked students to define them and think about them and interpret everything that happened in the class for the rest of the year thinking about those terms, I'm willing to bet some of those parents might have a problem with that. But this is really, I think, the debate of our time, is because the left wants this to be the default presumption of how everybody thinks.
Yes.
And they don't want to move on until we've all decided to agree to start at their baseline.
Absolutely right.
And then they'll move on to the next thing, and then they'll want to make that the new baseline. But they've decided that they want this to be the default. You ever hear that expression about how, like, fish don't know they're in water? Like, to them, water's just nothing. Right? Like, that's what they want this to be, is, like, where wokeness is the water.
Right.
That nobody notices because we're all swimming in it together. But a lot of people don't want to swim in the wokeness because it sucks. And we do notice it. And it's not the same as the regular water. And we all remember the regular water the way it was when we went to school. And so you're not fooling us. So then sitting here and asking us to say, like, what precisely is wrong with asking students to define the word marginalized? Like, I think that we all know exactly what's happening here. And that's why it makes people so angry, is because it's so disingenuous and condescending.
Right.
I really want to understand exactly what problem you have with the worksheet. Like, when we all know exactly what the problem is with the worksheet.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely. And so, just for planning purposes, please don't touch any wires. Please don't touch any wires. For planning purposes today, between that and also this girl, Jeannie Norris, who was Project Veritas, had recorded the beginning of the month. She's now been let go. She was recorded saying this.
Unfortunately, it's the white boys who feel like very entitled to express their opposite opinions and just push back. Well, there's a huge contingent of them that are just like horrible.
Those white boys keep asking and arguing with me. They think that they can give their opinion. Can you imagine?
I work in a really fancy private school up on the Upper West Side. It's definitely a school where conservatives would not feel comfortable. I don't hide how I feel, but I can't pretend I'm promoting an agenda.
Yada. It goes on like that.
Right.
She got waxed today. And so once I had those two things, I just went into our TikTok archives and...
Okay, TikTok, I really need your help here on this one. I'm a teacher. I teach 5th and 6th grade, and this morning, I don't know, somehow the concept of pronouns came up. And one of my students said, well, Miss Odell, did you even ask me my pronouns? And I was like, whoa, I hadn't actually asked him his pronouns, and I had called him a him, and I said, oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't actually asked you what your pronouns are, and what are they? And he said, Banana said, banana and rock. And I was like, dude, no, like, don't mess around with, I was actually really upset.
Pronouns are serious business.
I thought he was making fun of it. And in fact, I'm still pretty sure he was making fun of it. And, but they all agreed, no, like, you can choose anything. Banana, rock, if you want banana and rock to be a pronoun, banana and rock's your pronoun. Is it? TikTok, tell me.
Today on the last day, I finally decided to come out to my kids. And my kids are older, they're 4 and 5. And the way that I did it is just read them a book about this teddy bear that kind of comes out as a trans girl. And it's really nice and it's very simple. They understood it right away. And I think what made me cry the most was that afterwards, like, I kind of looked at them and there was just this silence in the room. And I just thought, like, oh my God, now they see me. as a totally different person. And before this, they loved me. I was such, one of their favorite teachers, and it felt so good to have that. And I think that.
And a whole bunch more. And so that was just essentially 3 hours of that today.
Can you imagine needing to have your feelings validated and have yourself propped up by the emotions of 4 and 5-year-olds about you?
Yeah, and he says at one point, like, one girl tried to, like, hug him and make him feel. So now you're infantilizing yourself and making the kids the caregiver in the class. I mean, he's a sick. Okay, but it's this whole world of crap that's going on here. And, 10% of kids have dropped out of New York public schools. It's like, wouldn't it be wonderful if the whole damn thing collapsed? Wouldn't it be just wonderful? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, they're a big voting bloc. So, but anyway.
And a lot of people still buy into it, that it's like, support the public schools, and there are still lots of good teachers out there. But it's, when you have that poison in the school system infiltrating stuff, unless you get rid of that, it infects the whole thing. You know what I mean? There's like no such thing as a half-poisoned bowl of soup.
Right. Oh, no, totally.
And, so it sucks for the good teachers that are there that are still trying to do good work. But it's like you're working at the Nazi party, basically,
yeah.
And you might be doing a good job and might be a nice person, but it's really like the whole system is bad. Like, you need to get out and go to private schools, do tutoring, do something, because this is not, if you don't agree with this stuff, you're not going to be allowed to stay. Look at what's happened. That's also another Connecticut story. Do you remember that teacher that got sent to the training and had something? Like a teacher got in big trouble for
because they talked about her white privilege and her white guilt and talked about, and then she said, what if we talked about black privilege essentially? And so they kicked her out. Yeah.
They're going to boot you out of these schools, but you're not going to be allowed to be there and still be a force for good in the building.
There's also another whistleblower.
The older people who get sick of it are going to get retired and shoved out, and the younger people that are sick of it are going to be rooted out, because they're going to make you go to more and more diversity trainings and forced confessions of your sins of whiteness and everything else until you agree with the program or you're gone.
Yeah. Moving from that to college, this is an interesting story I find just interesting. BU students' drink possibly spiked, prompting school warning. Dateline Boston, BU is issuing a warning to students about drinking danger after a member of the campus community said they may have been drugged after they woke up in the hospital with little recollection about the night before. 1 to 10 so far, where is your believe this person meter?
I'm still neutral, I would say, right in the middle.
I am. The needle has gone to the left. Completely. I don't believe them. Boston University and Boston police are now investigating the possible incident of a student's drink being spiked at an off-campus party Friday night. Student told police they were at a house party where they had a couple of drinks from people they didn't know. The student later got sick and returned to campus with roommates, but didn't remember much of the night before waking up in a hospital. Boston University said the judicial office is following up. And if the hearing officer determines a connection between that incident and anyone affiliated with BU, will take appropriate action, yada, yada. Boston police issued a warning alert about drinks being drugged at parties and gatherings around the start of the school year. Now, amid this new investigation, some students have been sharing steps they're taking to stay safe while having a good time. All my friends make sure we have each other's locations, said Agnes Tan. Just stick around a friend group or so, if one of you guys gets drunk or hurt or anything, to make sure you have friends around you. This past week, at the GSU, they were giving out little scrunchies to put it over so you can just put your straw in. Make sure no one can put anything in your drinks, said Ann Litch. Just watch out for your friend.
I've seen a few of these news stories in the last, I would say, 6 months to a year in various places. Some of them around the country, but several in Boston, saying there's an uptick in people reporting that their drinks have been spiked and all this stuff. And I'm kind of with you. I kind of don't buy it. I almost wonder if certain people in this generation just have a tendency to just don't know what it's like to get drunk.
I think that's
and
totally true.
And they're surprised by it.
Exactly. I think that when you're,
because
once you spend a little time with tequila and fireball shots, and you've hit you've hit a warp drive on your evening if you're a 20-year-old and you're in new territory.
I mean, not to say it's not possible, or some of them might not be possible, but I don't really understand the motivation for spiking drinks and then nothing happening to the person. Like, isn't that usually...
Right. It would be a date rape thing, right? Generally, right?
Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's like...
The idea is not to have a raging party and have everybody unconscious.
I know.
Yeah.
That, like, I just drugged some random girl in a bar, and then she went home to her house and doesn't remember anything.
Yeah.
Ha-ha!
Yeah.
Like, I don't really get what it's supposed to be, but because I haven't heard of like a spate of date rapes happening. I've heard of like a spate of drinks being spiked and people not, and like I don't know if the drugs are like detectable or if there's new ones that aren't detectable or what, but like, you know, maybe if this is actually a thing that's happening, we should make sure that like it's a drug that we can test for so that we're not questioning whether any of this is actually happening or if it's a figment of people's imaginations. But, you know, I seem to recall in college a lot of people not remembering what they did on weekends and getting sick a lot, leaving parties. And it was not because of date rape drugs. Right.
It's because you're young and stupid, and the American college culture is to party and whatever. So anyway, I'm deeming them liars. Now my show prep this morning also was interrupted at one point. At 10
I did hear that.
anti-meridian, I got a call. My phone read David Cullinane, which I know what that means. That means that the show has hijacked David's phone to call me live. So they did call me live. I assumed I knew what they're gonna talk about because Kirk's been fabricating this bizarre thing about not graduating in Dean McLaren's class. My friend Dean, who's doing well, by the way. In case people want to know, he's doing well. He's got a young family, and he's a great guy. And so then he called to yell at me about suggesting that he also claimed that he was best friends with Keith McLaren. Kirk did, which is not true because I was best friends with Keith essentially in high school. He was right there. I lived next door to Keith. I mean, speaking of like drinking all the time, we were at the end of my street drinking Bud Dry or something at that point. Like I had pretty close tabs on him, and I never noticed Kirk around. But he claims maybe it's the thing where you want to be known as being with the older kids. I don't know what it is, but anyway. So he called me in a tirade. And it's very tough too because if I'm doing multi-track recording and looking at stories like we've just been talking about, I'm going from that answering the phone to directly into an ongoing melee in which
you weren't listening to,
in which I am the primary target. So it is really, you don't get much time to get up to speed.
Well, Mike was nice.
Mike Geary is a great human being. He's a great guy. He's brilliant. He's funny. His show is fantastic.
Have you subscribed to his Patreon
They
yet?
should rename the Kirk Minihane show the Mike Geary show. I think so. Kirk is good, but Mike is better. Here's a little bit about how all that stuff sounded today during the phone call. It was
Dean graduated in your year.
No,
he graduated in my year.
No, he did not graduate in my year.
Yes, it is true.
No, it's right. I agree with Tom.
Look, you can look up the yearbooks are public record. You can look them up. I graduated in 93. Dean graduated in 94.
Who knows who?
So, and it's weird because I don't know what he and Kirk and Dave are up to because he didn't. I mean, he graduated with Dean. So, but I don't know what they're up to, and it's not a big thing. But I mean, you can hear that they did not have their ducks in a row. Anyway, so listen to this. Kirk just said that he graduated in 93, and Dean just graduated in 94. Now, we'll listen to what they also said in the same block of 10 minutes.
For the record, Andy, you and I graduated in 1992, correct? 93.
Oh, okay. So which is it, 92 or 93? And once again,
I did graduate in 1994, 93.
Okay, so now Kirk has graduated in 1992, 1993, and 1994 to have all his bases covered. Dave Cullinane is trying to help him with all of this stuff, but he's so well studied on the subject that instead of looking for Dean McLaren, this is who Cullinane's looking for.
McClure was 94.
Great, McClure was 94, and if he were involved in this conversation, that would be something. But anyway, I'm going to put it to bed there. Apparently, Dave and Kirk aren't ready to deal with that reality, which is fine with me. That's fine. And we'll see. By the way, still talk about Alice. I'm inviting you. I told them, I keep saying it's not a good fit, but you're obviously a free human being.
So I've heard. That's fine. I haven't actually been invited, so that's also fine.
Wow, coy, Alice.
What's coy?
You're a little coy.
I don't know that that's coy, but I wasn't there in Winchester High School, so I don't know who graduated one any more than anybody else. So I'm staying out of that one. Thank you, though.
Let me ask you something. I want to play this. This is something Nancy Pelosi said today. Is this good strategy or just insanity?
And we saved the planet. We're saving the planet with record $360 billion to save the planet and generating jobs and cleaner air and cleaner water and jobs and security for our country. And we...
Does he know you have that?
I'm just putting his water in it.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I see. He's enslaved him. So, what do you think about somebody saying...
I only got up to saving the planet. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
Save the planet. We're saving... And we saved the planet. We're saving the planet with record $360 billion.
The Inflation Reduction Act, in other words.
To save the planet and generating jobs and cleaner air and cleaner water and jobs and security for our country.
What do you think of messaging like that?
Well, I mean, doesn't this date from Obama? Like this was the moment when the tides turned back?
I guess so, but that was his convention speech, right?
When the oceans stopped their rise.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is, I guess it's similar. But this is, her spiking the football, saying that this multi-billion-dollar climate giveaway handout under the guise of the Inflation Reduction Act, saying it saved the planet. I mean, that's a bold, it's certainly pithy. It's certainly something that you can tell people all over the country at Democratic town committees and other areas.
Well, if the planet's
keep it simple, we save the planet.
If the planet's saved, why is Rashida Tlaib still spouting off that banks need to not fund any more fossil fuels at all?
Well, during her re-election, I'm sure when she goes back to the district, she will say that we saved the planet. And you can tell what we've done to save the planet because I yelled it to Jamie Dimon. I'm just interested in it because it's such... It's of course it's an absurd thing to say, of course. But it's also very pithy messaging.
Yeah, it's simple. It's straightforward.
We save the planet.
Demonstrably not true.
Correct.
But, I just, first of all, we weren't in danger of losing the planet, per se. Even the strongest, climate change alarmism is we're gonna have more storms and certain coastal cities will be underwater, but that's not the same as saved the planet, literally, but whatever. So it's a pretty extreme thing to say, but then also this bill does nothing to tackle anything that's in there. And I just it's so crazy to me because the climate people, who used to just be normal environmentalists, but they change what they believe every 3 seconds, it's never enough. They're never happy. I read a big, rant about electric cars being too big because they came out with this, electric Hummer. Mm-hmm. And it's huge. Electric cars are heavier than their gas car counterparts because they have that big, heavy battery. So it's actually less fuel efficient than a small car, than a sedan that takes gas.
I apologize, Alice.
Scratch and dents,
sorry about this.
Discontinued items.
So, all these laws, California passed a law, they want to be all electric vehicles by whatever year, I forget, 2030 or something. And Massachusetts wants to follow suit and all of the, they're not going to just stop once you get an electric vehicle. Just because you get all your electricity from solar panels and have an electric car that you only charge during the designated hours Gavin Newsom lets you charge it and everything else. It's not over then. You don't get an electric car and solar panels and the planet is saved and we're out of stuff to do. And that was kind of what I was driving at when I was saying why is Rashida Tlaib still yelling at the banks if the planet's saved, right? Because it's never actually saved, because if the planet's actually saved, then like the project is over, and that's never good enough. But like you've seen this, like I've seen it, because you've been around a little while, and you've seen like the way the environmentalists act about the nuclear power plant in Vermont or the ones in Massachusetts, or how they act about like windmills killing birds or whatever it is. Like, it's never, the things that they say are green always turn out to have more problems, and then they protest those. Like, it's this never ending cycle of stuff not being good enough. They're going to come out with electric vehicles, and people are going to say, but I want my Hummer, and they're going to come out with an electric Hummer, and they're going to say, well, that doesn't count, because that's actually less efficient in terms of fossil fuels than just getting a tiny sedan that runs on gas. But they're never going to be happy, you know, just because they've sold you an electric car and all this other stuff. They're not going to be done with the green energy project. The inconvenience to you will not be over at that point in time. It's going to keep going. This is a never-ending thing.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's absolutely true. I mean, this is, the saving the planet business is a huge industry. It's huge. And now, since the progressives have now tied it through everything, so there's got to be climate justice now, etc., then, you know...
That's why we have Mayor Pete talking about getting rid of highways that hurt black neighborhoods.
Right.
And,
You got to put your Himalayan salt lights on.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, but the thing is that it's also like conveniently unfalsifiable. Like, there's no evidence whether any of this does anything or not, and you can't tell if it's working or not. You just have to do it and shut up. I will never forget this, because it was like one of those times I was in the car and the radio was saying stuff, and I was like getting furious and yelling at the radio even though it couldn't hear me. But I remember this was like when I was in college. It was after Hurricane Katrina, and Marjorie Egan was talking about banning styrofoam in some Massachusetts town, and she was like, well, look at these storms. We have to do something.
Oh my God.
Look at the
Marjorie, come on.
And I was like, the two things have nothing to do with each other. Like, it just makes no sense. It's like, what are you talking about? What do you think it's going to do if your Chinese takeout comes in a plastic container instead of a styrofoam one? What is it going to do to the storm? I just really want to understand. Nobody has any answers to questions like that. And when people start to actually do, like, full life cycle analysis of how green a lot of these projects are, a lot of them are not. You know, like the reusable grocery bags are not. If you use a cotton washable grocery bag, like a big like a canvas bag, like an LL Bean tote for your groceries, you have to use it like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times to make up for the same energy use, water use, impact on the environment in general that it takes to make that bag versus those little plastic grocery bags, which are incredibly non-impactful to the environment to make. They just don't feel right to people. So, whenever you start to do these analyses, and like, I don't even know about windmills, like how long do they last before they rust out and they have to be replaced, especially in a place like Vermont or Massachusetts where we have real winters.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, how much energy do you save?
I gotta say, I really don't like them killing the eagles, because eagles are awesome.
Yeah, or cutting down all the trees and making a road to drive the thing up to the mountain in Vermont.
I'm not a tree guy. I'm fine with that.
Well, no, but I'm saying, like, if you're a climate change person, that should bother you, because the trees suck up the CO2.
Right.
Mom, I have one with this. Down by the school, they cut down loads of trees to make
a solar panel array? Yeah.
They just cleared out a big chunk of it.
Yeah.
We saw that. Good one, Sally. That's right.
And, and
that's
trees
right. You can
help
see
with
that yourself
climate
if you'd like
change.
to. The school in Newburyport, right next to it, there's a big solar array there. And
but
what's your right hand doing right now? Your left hand?
It's just gesturing.
Do you usually make that gesture?
Sometimes. I don't know.
I never see it.
But the point is that it just, none of this stuff is actually a solution to a real problem. Remember how shy you used to be in front of the camera and be
remember you used to nervously grin in front of the camera?
Did I? I don't know.
Remember that? I used to call you out on it all the time, which probably didn't help, but
you told me to stop looking dutiful.
Yeah, that's right. Or sometimes you'd look over interested in something and say,
Sorry.
No, that's good. You don't do it anymore.
Sorry, I apologize.
You're the perfect combination of seasoned and broken inside now to no longer be nervous.
Yeah, good. That's good. So I have, like, on a slightly different topic, one last question for you.
Hi, I'd like to answer that question for you.
How do you think the polls are doing accurately reflecting what's going on in the midterms right now?
I think they're wildly off. I think they're wildly off. In Connecticut, you've got Blumenthal over the Senator Blumenthal, over his Republican opponent, who's named Leora Levy, who is both Jewish and is an immigrant, somebody who's spent time under the rule of Castro, who's got a good track record, who's been endorsed by Trump.
How's Dan Moresi doing, by the way? Speaking of,
I don't know. I haven't seen any polling on him. But
nobody.
Well,
polls those
I assume
races,
that
really,
I assume, and then you've got Bob Stefanowski down by 17 against the governor, which is astounding. I think it's all. I think all of the midterm polls that I've seen is in the ones that show Democrats ahead. I think it's hogwash.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what to think of it, but there's this guy from the Trafalgar Group the Trafalgar Group polls have been really off from everybody else's. Much more, they've shown the Republicans much closer or ahead in races. That's the one
but this is the guy he had Trump right on in 2016, right? This is the guy out of South Carolina.
I'll go look at exactly who he is, but
he's one of these guys who became like a hero in 2016 and kind of a heel in 2020.
Right, and I mean it's one of those things like, you know, if you're saying the same thing you were saying in 2016, you might just be a one-trick person, and you could have been wrong last time. Cahaley, Robert Cahally, chief pollster at Trafalgar Group. Anyway, he likes the Braves. Does that sound right? And the Dallas Cowboys.
So that's him.
Gamecock Facebook.
Okay, I'll stop saying things.
Anyway, or Gamecock football, I guess. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know anything about sports. Anyway, long story short, he's talking about this like submerged MAGA voter. Have you heard this?
Submerged? No.
So like, because people before had been talking about the shy Trump voter effect, that like Trump voters were less willing to vote in polls and all this stuff because they were nervous, and a lot of people didn't believe in that. And then 2016, I mean, I'm not sure 2016 was actually like that off, except it was a little bit off in the right states. You know what I mean? In terms of like the actual polling results, but there have been years when polling has been off. Sometimes, like in 2010, it was obviously way off, and Republicans were doing way better than it looked like. In 2012, it was the opposite. Romney was really expecting a good night in 2012, and Obama outperformed the polls like pretty much everywhere in 2012. So, the polls can be systematically off. And this guy at the Trafalgar Group is saying that there's a submerged Trump voter or not Trump voter this time because there's no Trump on the ballot, but a submerged MAGA voter who's basically like now so distrustful of the media, pollsters, the government, everything, that they're just like completely like the polls aren't picking them up at all. They're just totally invisible. So, and his polls are showing a lot of these races much, much closer, or even with Republicans ahead. The consensus seems to be that in Arizona, that Carrie Lake is probably winning her race, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Based on like polls that I've seen, it looks like she's up or close to up. Blake Masters, pretty much across the board, doesn't appear to be doing as well, but this Trafalgar Group has him like within a point of the opponent, which is huge given that like the main part of the party doesn't really like him. He's like one of these Peter Thiel guys. So, I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of trouble believing the Pennsylvania numbers. I will tell you that. That's like one of the states that I see the most about, and I don't believe that race is polling where it is. I don't think Fetterman's like 10 points up or something.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, everything I'm hearing...
I mean, Dr. Oz sucks. I'm not a fan of his or something. He's not a great candidate.
No.
Not because he's extreme or something, but because he's just not a great candidate. He doesn't come from the state. He's like a celebrity weirdo, rich guy. But John Fetterman's terrible. And he's like mentally not all there, and he's crazy, and he lived off his parents his whole life, and like, he's just like, they're both bad. So I don't know what's happening there, but I feel a sense that things are off. I will tell you that. I don't think we know what is going on in any of these races right now. I feel like, and I look at polls a lot, and I just like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't feel like we're seeing the whole picture in the polls right now. And I don't know if these people will ultimately win, but I just like, some of them seem off to me like that. Like, I just don't believe that that Fetterman is just going to run away with Pennsylvania.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, yeah, before the stroke, he was a whack job. Now he's got problems. Yeah. And then behind, his difficulties, he's a whack job. You're right, but it's totally. I mean, I've only talked to Anthony about it because he's from Philly, and like his circle, but he's a younger guy, essentially feels that Oz is a carpetbagger. And at Anthony's age, he takes that very personally, because he's newer to politics, and it's a huge affront. But
I don't understand too how the left is like cheerleading for like the second they get the Senate to eliminate the filibuster too. Like, that doesn't seem to me like that would help any of those candidates. Because if I'm like on the fence in Pennsylvania, I think that would make me lean away from Fetterman. Wouldn't it make you? Like, not even like, there might be policies that you would like the Democrats to enact, and they haven't because of the filibuster. But even so, like, you have to know at this point that like, once you get rid of the filibuster, the Republicans are going to use it a couple years from now. Right, to pass something with 51 votes.
Of course.
I mean, like, so it just doesn't everybody normal think that's inadvisable?
I don't know. It seems to me that the Democrats, somewhat to their credit, are willing to make things into suicide missions. They are. And it's like, okay, let's do it. Should we go to the chat?
I guess. One more polling nugget that I saw is that there was a poll that had Ron DeSantis beating Trump in a primary in Florida.
It's interesting because Trump's a native son now too.
Yeah, and Trump's always been ahead, even in Florida, for the Republican nomination for president.
Yeah, I saw this. Maggie Haberman was talking about today that she thought she was hearing that Trump wasn't enthusiastic about running anymore, and I would love that to be true, but I don't think it is.
Well, it really depends, and this is unfortunate, but it really depends what the media and the left does, because the more they go after Trump, the more likely it is they make him the nominee.
Well,
like what they did with this Mar-a-Lago stuff, or even this Letitia James thing, although I think that's less impactful because that's sort of small potatoes compared to the other thing.
It's crap, and I think that the Mar-a-Lago stuff is going to be crap, but I think that doing that was so clearly nakedly political from a very big arm of the federal government that I think that makes people like Trump more. It makes him more sympathetic. Agreed.
And it hits Republicans and all the right, like, psychological points. It pushes all the right buttons to make them sympathetic to Trump and want to vote for him again.
It does. it totally juices his populism points when they do that. And so it makes people say, okay, maybe I'll take a second look. Me included, as a matter of fact. Because, voting for him is essentially a referendum on those corrupt institutions.
Exactly. So, if they do more stuff like that, then, like, it could happen. But, I mean, I hope you're right that people are saying that he's thinking of, staying away from the race. But I don't necessarily believe that when he's, like, talking about whether or not he's going to announce before or after the midterms, I think he's running.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. All right. Should we go?
Go ahead. Chat away.
Here we go.
Hello. This message is for Commissar Thomas Shattuck.
Well,
I want to thank you on behalf of the party for informing the American public that all window shades on all windows on all airplanes belong to the party. and Thomas Shattuck will let you know whether shade is up or shade is down. Do not be believing that you have free will on plane. Commissar Shattuck will make sure you behave appropriately. Do svidaniya.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely for that. And it's a...
Good Russian accent, by the way.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yes. It's a moral stain on somebody to not have the window up so that the people can see out. It's a moral stain on you. Correct.
So I seen that the Celtics head coach might get a 1-year ban after having a improper sexual relationship with a staff member.
Though consensual.
Which makes people on Twitter ask this simple question. How could you cheat on Nia Long? How could you?
Cheat on who?
Nia Long.
Who's that?
His wife, I guess.
Oh,
I don't know.
Is that his wife? Oh. So he here's my thing about that. It used to be, of all the many jobs I've had, it was always a recreational thing to try to hook up with people at work. I mean, they were stuck next to you for hours. They had to hear you. It was your fighting chance to try to convince somebody that you were charming. So it's always been always. The chefs slept with the wait staff. In hotels, everybody was sleeping with each other. Okay, it was just not me. Obviously, I held out for my dear Alice, but lesser godly people. Godly. How do you say that? I don't know. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Hey, Tom, I thought your whole reaction when Nick Nolte called him was quite humorous, especially when he flubbed the name of the woman who called into your radio show.
Yes.
You're very quick on the trigger there. Also, I love the fact that
I can go back and do it afterwards, so I wasn't that quick.
You got nervous after he said that about rolling in the hay with her. Yeah, it's Etris, not
Yeah,
bad snub. Anyway... Hope you and Alice are going to have a great weekend.
We are. Thank you so much. Okay. I'm looking forward to this. Here we go. Ready, Alice?
Okay.
This says Rough and Rowdy. Do you know what that is?
That's that Barstool thing, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Do you think you might know where this is going?
I'm a little worried.
Yeah, I challenge you, Tom Shattuck, to Rough and Rowdy. Oh, yeah. And my manager's going to be none other than Riggs.
Riggs. Barstool Riggs, obviously one of my new detractors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm told by somebody that he's supposedly a good Republican senator, and I'm not seeing it. I don't think the golf set.
I think a lot of people who play golf are Republicans.
Okay, Bill Clinton played golf.
Okay. Donald Trump
now I
plays
get
golf.
the significance of Fisk's number. Congratulations, but
see,
I think of you as more of a Yaz guy. 8 ball.
Timmy Kenton, genius as usual. Do you know the Fisk? Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Alice, because you will. You'll hear it tonight first, but you'll hear it next week if you listen to WTIC. This is a sneak peek. Nobody has heard this before, Alice.
Okay.
Nobody has heard this before. Are you excited?
I'm incredibly excited.
Thank you very much. Ready?
Mm-hmm. Why won't people on TIC hear it tomorrow?
Because they're not going to hear it tomorrow. They're not going to hear it till Monday. And then it's going to change slightly, and then they'll hear it again Tuesday. Okay, ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Are you ready, Alice?
I'm ready.
Where is it?
I'm still ready. How about now?
Here we go. Here we go. This is sneak peek, Alice. Nobody else is going to hear this. Nobody else is going to hear this. You ready?
I'm ready.
So I had Tim and Canton he called my radio show, and I asked him what number, Tim, was Carlton Fisk, and he came out first. He said 8 for Yastrzemski, which he just made into 8-ball because of my cocaine habit.
Mm-hmm.
But then he said, no, 27. And I said, that is correct. Remember that I said that. And then I went to break, and then I did a live read and read essentially this. This serendipitous moment brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss. So there I was last week at Fenway Park. I sat in my seat. I was worried I wouldn't fit in it, and I fit in it. I was sitting in right field, right under all the retired numbers, including my favorite player, Carlton Fisk, number 27. Now I've retired 27 pounds. Serendipity! The weight is full. How do you like it?
You've retired 27 pounds. I get it, honey.
You get it?
That's awesome.
Thank you very much, Alice. That's not quite up there with Give Me Your Napoleon.
No, that's
But that's
genius.
a nice twist of the language and irony and other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're underwhelmed with me today. All right. Mike likes me, okay? My friend Mike Geary.
He's fantastic.
We're going to chum around you now. Did you not realize that?
Okay, our new best friend.
Yeah, he's also got a long-term girlfriend, too. So there you go. We'll get them married. He should get married, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll be our pals. We'll chum around with them.
Sounds good to me.
Hey, Tom and Alice, it's KG checking in.
Hey, KG.
Hey, Tom, now that we know that Kirk was right.
Incorrect.
About Dean McClurn and what year he graduated.
Well, let's check the tape on that, KG, shall we? All right, Kirk. What year did you graduate?
For the record, Andy, you and I graduated in 1992, correct? 93.
Okay, 92 or 93?
I did graduate in 1994. 93.
Okay, Kirk. One of those. Kirk graduated in 3 different years. Remarkable. Continuing with KG.
I was wondering if you'd like to comment on what Kirk thinks about your old eating habits. He speculated that you would eat a big bowl of fettuccine Alfredo with extra cheese. Once the kids and Alice went to sleep, you would tiptoe into the kitchen and feast.
I bet we'll find it soon, okay?
Is Kirk right about that too?
KG, I did listen to that today, and let me tell you something. That dude did not graduate in 1993, but he had me absolutely, that is absolutely right. Fettuccine Alfredo, standing over the sink, whacking out an entire bowl, sometimes not being able to breathe because I was so into it. He said making love to it, or like putting my whole head in there.
Yeah, he said
that is, Alice, is that accurate or not?
That's pretty accurate.
That's why.
Yeah, and you used to bully me to go to bed out of the kitchen,
right?
So that you could eat alone in shame and peace with your pasta.
That's right. As I was panting over the sink, Kirk was absolutely right about that. He got that right. So he's got the guy's like got a sixth sense about things. He's right about many things. We're gonna put aside the controversy about the year we graduated here. All right, Alice, I'm gonna hit the music. Does that work for you?
That's fine with me. Anyway, you can leave chat messages like that at burnbarrelpodcast.com. You can also, as I noticed you have all been very open to doing, talk to us on Twitter. He is at Tom Shattuck. This is at burnbarrelpod. We're also at facebook.com/burnbarrelpodcast or burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on, if SoundCloud works, most places where you might want to listen to a podcast.
For the record, Andy, you and I graduated in 1992, correct? I did graduate in 1993.
Yep. 8-6. Oh, sorry. All right.
You can call Tom on the radio, too.
Yeah, we'll see you later.